What are the 7 strangest places on Earth that science still cannot fully explain? Not ghost stories, not legends, real places on real maps, where the data eventually runs out and honest scientists just say, we do not know. One of them is a lake that stays bright pink even in a glass. Another is a glacier that appears to bleed. There is a river hot enough to cook you, and a patch of desert that has been on fire for more than 50 years. We are going to count down from number 7 all the way to number 1, and it gets stranger with every single step. So do not skip ahead. Let us begin at number 7. Number 7 is a lake the exact color of bubblegum. Lake Hillier sits on a tiny island off the southern coast of Western Australia, and from the air, it looks like someone spilled a giant strawberry milkshake into the deep blue ocean. Here is the strange part. Scoop the water into a glass, and it stays pink. It is not a reflection of the sky, and it is not the depth of the water. For years, scientists blamed one type of algae that turns red under stress. But when researchers finally sequenced everything living in that water in 2022, they found a whole cocktail of salt-loving microbes working together. And the exact recipe behind that pink is still being untangled today. Number 6 hides behind a waterfall in New York State. Tuck your head into a small stone grotto at Chestnut Ridge Park, just south of Buffalo, and you will find a flame, a real dancing flame, flickering right underneath the falling water. People have kept it relit for generations, and it is fed by natural gas leaking straight out of the rock. Here is where it gets weird. When geologists studied it in 2013, they expected the gas to come from ancient, super hot shale deep below the surface. Instead, the rock down there turned out to be far too cool to be making gas the normal way. So where is all that gas actually coming from? We honestly still do not know. Number 5 can genuinely cook you alive. Deep in the Peruvian Amazon runs a river the locals call Shanai Timpishka, which roughly translates to boiled with the heat of the sun. Long stretches of it reach nearly 95 degrees Celsius. That is hot enough to kill a small animal that falls in within seconds. Now, rivers this hot almost always sit right next to a volcano. But this one does not. The nearest active volcano is more than 700 kilometers away. The leading theory is that rainwater sinks deep into the earth, gets heated far below, and then rises back up through hidden cracks and faults. But the full plumbing beneath that jungle has never actually been mapped. Still with me? Good, because number 4 barely looks like planet Earth at all. In the Danakil Depression of Ethiopia, the Dahlal springs bubble up in electric yellows and toxic greens, and scientists actually use this place as a practice ground for the surface of Mars. The water here is boiling hot and more acidic than battery acid. Researchers went looking for life in these pools, fully expecting to find tough little microbes surviving the impossible. Instead, they found a genuine scientific fight. Some studies say tiny organisms manage to cling on. Others argue that nothing truly lives there at all, and that the specks we see are just chemistry pretending to be life. On this one, the experts still cannot agree. Number 3 looks like a glacier that is slowly bleeding. On the face of the Taylor Glacier in Antarctica, a deep red stain pours out across the clean white ice, like an open wound in the frozen landscape. For 100 years after it was first discovered, nobody could explain it. Was it red algae? Was it rust? Only recently did scientists trace the source to a hidden reservoir of ancient, iron-rich saltwater, sealed away beneath the ice for more than 1 million years. When that water finally reaches the open air, the iron rusts, and it runs blood red. And down in that buried darkness lives an entire ecosystem that has never once seen the sun. Number 2 might just be the strangest of them all. In a quiet Norwegian valley called Hessdalen, glowing lights appear in the night sky. Some of them hover in one place for over an hour. Others suddenly flash and shoot across the valley in a heartbeat. They range from the size of a basketball to the size of a car, and they glow white, yellow, and deep red. And this is not one shaky video or a single excited witness. The people who live here have watched these lights for more than 40 years. Back in the early 1980s, they were appearing so often that scientists finally decided to move in and study them properly. So, what did the investigators actually find? Starting in 1984, teams of scientists camped out in that freezing valley with genuinely serious equipment. They caught the lights on radar. They picked up bursts of energy across completely different parts of the spectrum. One leading idea is that the whole valley behaves like a giant natural battery, with just the right mix of metals and minerals in the rock and the water. Another points to floating clouds of dust that somehow begin to glow. But no single theory explains everything these lights actually do. And so, after 4 decades of study, the mystery is still wide open. And that finally brings us to number 1, a hole in the desert that locals simply call the door to hell. In the middle of the Kah Desert in Turkmenistan, the flat ground suddenly drops away into a fiery crater about 70 meters wide, and the entire pit is on fire. At night, it glows like a doorway leading straight down into the center of the earth, throwing orange light across the empty sand for miles around. Travelers hike for hours just to stand at the crumbling edge and feel the raw heat on their faces. But the real mystery here is not that it burns. The real mystery is that it has never, ever stopped. The popular story goes like this. Back in 1971, Soviet engineers were drilling for gas out here when the ground suddenly collapsed. To burn off the escaping gas safely, they set it on fire, fully expecting the flames to die out within a few weeks. That was more than 50 years ago, and it is still burning today. But here is the honest truth. The records are so patchy that historians cannot even agree on the year it really started. Some argue it was actually the 1980s. And nobody knows exactly how much gas is feeding it, or why the supply has lasted this long. Only in the last couple of years have the flames finally started to shrink. And honestly, 7 was never really going to be enough. Our planet is absolutely full of places like this. In Romania, there is a cave called Movi Ile that was sealed off from the outside world for more than 5 million years. The air inside is thick with poison gas, there is almost no oxygen, and yet an entire ecosystem of pale, blind creatures lives down there, feeding on chemicals instead of sunlight. Off the coast of Belize sits the Great Blue Hole, a perfect dark circle of water more than 100 meters deep. Divers who mapped it in 2018 found a layer of toxic gas near the bottom, and below that layer, no oxygen and no life at all. So there you have it. 7 places on the very same planet we like to think we have completely figured out. And at every single one of them, the science eventually runs out and quietly turns into a shrug. A lake that stays pink in a glass. A glacier that bleeds red. A burning door in the middle of the desert. We have mapped the deep ocean floor and landed robots on Mars, and yet all of these strange places are still sitting right here, quietly refusing to explain themselves. And honestly, that is the best part. Because if the Earth can still keep secrets like these, then the map is nowhere near finished. And that is just what we have found so far.